In the previous episode, we have seen how to set up MongoDB on our local machines. In the present episode, we are going to set up our main stack application on our local machine. So this is how we are going to set up. So we are going to create two folders. One is for API and another is for UI. So UI is completely built with Vue CLI and Vue.js, and the whole backend API folder. So the whole backend resides in the API folder, and the whole API is built with Nodejs and ExpressJS. So let's get into implementation. So the first thing that we need to do is to create a folder. So since we are developing VueJS full stack application, I'm going to name that as MEVN stack example. So that is a project name, and let's import into VSCode. Once you import that into VSCode, you can open a terminal and we can just create both folders, UI and API, from the terminal itself. Let's create two folders here, UI and API. Now let's change the directory into API, since we are developing the API part first. So each one has its own package.json. So we're going to create API package.json here with npm init command. So once you do npm init, it asks you a bunch of questions: package name, semantic version, description, entry point, test command, git repository, keywords. So we can just give what is meaningful here. And other is obviously the other name, which is my name here, and the license. And once you hit enter or yes, it actually creates package.json. So if you open package.json, you can see all the answers that we gave and also the keywords. And it doesn't have any dependencies yet, since we did not install any dependencies. Now I created a file called index.js, which is the main file of our Node.js API. For now, I'm going to run some Node.js commands. Node.js code. So I'm going to print a bunch of print statements, and the function called print name, which takes the name as a parameter, and it actually prints with console log statement. So with this console log, I don't think we need console log here. If we console log print function, it actually gives you undefined, since print function doesn't return anything. So it just prints. So yep. So that's why we just need to remove console log there. Just run the print function, print name. So the whole reason of this exercise is I just wanted to show you how to run, how to add scripts to the package.json. So you can just simply run node index.js, which you can run this code, but you can just add a script to the scripts section of the package.json, so that you don't have to remember the whole thing and you don't have to type. All you need to do is npm start, which runs this node index.js, and which in turn runs the whole index.js code. Now we are done with the Node.js API. Let's change the directory out of API and get into UI directory. And here is a legacy Vue CLI, And instead of legacy Vue CLI, we are going to use new tool called White. And with npm create Vue latest, we just need to install Vue CLI or White tooling globally. And it asks you a bunch of questions. So it is actually using create Vue 3.72 version. And it asks you project name and all. So since we are using UI as a project name, we just need to give UI. And TypeScript support, as of now we are actually doing JavaScript. So there is a completely new series about TypeScript. And Vue router and Pinia. Pinia is a state management tool. You can just say yes. And testing, end-to-end testing, ESLint. So these are all the options which you don't have to configure on your own. This White tool will configure for yourself, and it will create the whole configuration files, and it scaffold the whole application. As you can see, it created the whole bunch of files. As you can see, package.json and app.vue. So in the package.json, you can see n number of dependencies and dev dependencies. And you need to install first all these dependencies before you run this application. So let's install all the dependencies, and once we are done with the installation of all dependencies, you can just run npm run dev. It's going to take some time depending on the network speed, and also there are a bunch of dev dependencies here. So it is going to take some time. So it created node modules folder, and also yep, now all the dependencies are done, and now we can just run npm run dev. So when you run npm run dev, the whole application is running on the port 5173. You can just copy that URL and hit it here. You can see the whole Vue.js application. So this is the home page, and there are a bunch of helpful documents, and you can just go through on that home page itself. And let's remove the whole page for now from the template, and let's put some simple heading. Hello UI is running on port 5173. As soon as you save, you can see those changes. Hello UI is running on port 5173, and there are other components here. I think that is coming from Vue router. So I'm going to remove that Vue router as well, so that you don't see anything. You can just see that plain heading. So there are so much documentation, there is so much tooling. You can go through on your own if you are into it. So as you can see, we have removed all the default HTML that comes from tooling. Now the UI setup is completed, and let's open a separate terminal, and let's get into API, and it's time for us to set up Express server. As you go to Express page, you can just copy those 3 lines and paste it here in index.js. As we are importing Express module, we need to install Express module here. Once you run this npm install Express, it gets added into dev dependencies object in the package.json. Oh, I think I ran this command in the root folder. Let's change the directory into API, and let's remove this package.json which is created under root folder. Make sure we are in the right folder, API. Yeah, we are in the right folder now, and let's run the express command again, install command again. As you can see, the express module is added to dependencies object. Now we are going to define a default route. So when you hit localhost 3000, it comes to the default route, and this default route will take path as a parameter and a callback function. So the callback function has two parameters, request and response. So we are only dealing with response right now. So we are going to send sample text hello from the API. So we can set up a server with app.listen function, and which takes a port as a first parameter and a callback function. So the callback function, as of now, we are just putting some console log statement which prints API listening on port 3000. Okay, so now as soon as you run this code, that app.listen creates a HTTP server which listens on the port 3000. Now let's run the npm start. Now the UI is running on 5173 and the whole API is running on port 3000. So if you open a new tab and hit localhost 3000, so whatever you define in the default route, you can see the text in the browser. Now we have API and UI folder separately, and those two is being run on separate ports as well. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.